BunsenLabs Linux is one of those distributions that feels like a hidden treasure in the world of operating systems. A project that doesn't shout loudly like Ubuntu, doesn't chase trends like some flashy distros, and doesn't try to impress with unnecessary features. Instead, it quietly delivers a clean, stable, lightweight, powerful, endlessly configurable environment that brings back the glory days of minimal computing where everything was fast, everything was simple, and everything felt like it belonged to the user rather than the system. When you first encounter BunsenLabs Linux, you immediately realize that this is not a system meant for everyone. It does not hold your hand. It does not throw animations at your face. It doesn't try to look like Windows 11 or Mac OS Sonoma. It is a distribution built for people who appreciate the craft behind Linux, who enjoy minimalism, who want speed, who want control, and who want the freedom to customize their environment down to the smallest detail. It is a distro that feels like a living workspace rather than a flashy desktop. And the more time you spend with it, the more addictive it becomes. BunsenLabs is a continuation of the legacy left behind by Crunchbang, one of the most beloved lightweight distros of its time. Crunchbang was built around the philosophy of doing more with less, creating a full desktop environment using the super light Openbox window manager, and a set of carefully selected tools that put performance and efficiency above everything. When Crunchbang ended, its community refused to let it die, and from that passion came BunsenLabs, a distro built on Debian Stable, optimized to perfection. Kept alive by enthusiasts rather than corporations, and polished with care instead of marketing. Using BunsenLabs feels like entering a world where every decision is intentional. When the desktop loads for the first time, you're greeted with a simple, elegant, dark-themed Openbox setup that wastes zero resources. There is no clutter. There are no heavy background processes. No compositing effects unless you enable them. And the RAM usage is shockingly low, often around 150 to 200 megabytes on a fresh boot, making it usable even on extremely old hardware while still performing like a rocket on modern systems. This minimalism is not a weakness. It is the entire point. BunsenLabs shows you how powerful an optimized system can be when you stop relying on massive desktop environments and instead spin your system around a lightweight window manager with scripts and tools designed to do their job efficiently. The menu system is fast, clean, and dynamic. The theming is consistent and classy. The keyboard shortcuts are carefully crafted so you can navigate your entire system without lifting your hands from the keyboard. Everything feels smooth because everything is designed to stay out of your way. One of the most impressive parts of BunsenLabs is how it manages to feel light without feeling empty. Many lightweight distros give you nothing and expect you to configure everything yourself. BunsenLabs doesn't do that. It gives you an environment that is ready to use from the first boot. It includes editors, file managers, terminal tools, network utilities, screenshot tools, and a curated list of software chosen for stability and performance. These aren't random picks. Each tool feels like it belongs, like part of a carefully engineered ecosystem. For example, Thuner acts as the default file manager, giving you a fast and simple way to handle files without the bloating that comes with heavier alternatives. Tint acts as the panel, giving you a light but powerful bar for system tray icons, workspace switching, and quick access to key functions. Conky provides system monitoring on the desktop in a way that's both useful and aesthetic. An Openbox, the heart of the system, gives you a level of control that no traditional desktop environment can match. Here, you're not forced into a design. You shape it. You build your workflow. You decide how your windows behave, how your menus appear, and how your shortcuts work. With BunsenLabs, the user is always in control, not the system. When you dig deeper into customization, you start to experience the true power of BunsenLabs. Everything in the system is based on configuration files, scripts, and lightweight components that you can modify, extend, or replace. Want a completely different theme? You can apply it instantly. Want a floating terminal on hotkey? You can configure it. Want tiling-like functionality? You can build it with a few scripts. Want different workspaces, different wallpapers, or different key bindings? All of it is customizable. It's because the system is so light, every change feels instant. Unlike KDE or GNOME, where modifying settings sometimes feels like making changes inside a heavy machine, BunsenLabs reacts instantly. Openbox reloads in a second. Tint to restarts instantly. Conky updates without hesitation. It gives the system a crispness that very few distros manage to achieve. BunsenLabs is built on Debian Stable, which means you're getting a system that prioritizes reliability over novelty. This makes it perfect for long-term use. You can install it once and use it for years without worrying about breakage or unexpected system updates that ruin your workflow. Debian's massive repositories give you access to thousands of packages, and because BunsenLabs is so light, installing software like Firefox, GIMP, Inkscape, OBS, Kdenelv, or even heavier programming tools does not slow the system down. This combination of stability and performance makes BunsenLabs ideal for people who want a fast but dependable setup, especially students, developers, content creators, using lighter workflows, writers, old laptop rescuers, Linux enthusiasts, and power users who want to build their own environment from the ground up. The installation process of BunsenLabs is extremely straightforward thanks to Debian's proven installer. Once installed, the system boots fast, responds fast, and uses so little RAM and CPU that your machine feels more powerful than before. On older hardware like old Core 2 Duos, first-generation i3 laptops, or older AMD machines, BunsenLabs can make them usable again. Programs open faster, boot times are shorter, heat generation decreases, battery life improves. And because Openbox is so light, multitasking feels smoother even on systems that would struggle with GNOME or KDE. But BunsenLabs is not just for old hardware. On modern systems, it becomes incredibly fast, almost instant in everything it does. Windows open instantly. Applications launch instantly. System feels tighter and more responsive than almost any mainstream environment. If you value speed, minimalism, low resource usage, and high control, BunsenLabs is one of the top distros you can choose. A lot of people who switch to BunsenLabs do so because they want to escape the bloat that creeps into modern operating systems. They want to avoid constant background processes, automatic telemetry, forced UI changes, or unnecessary animations that waste CPU cycles. With BunsenLabs, what you see is what you get. There is no tracking, no flashy UI elements. Nothing running unless you need it. Feels like Linux in its pure form. Fast, free, open, and yours to control. The experience of using BunsenLabs grows the longer you use it. At first, the minimal look might feel unfamiliar, especially if you come from Windows or Mac OS. But gradually you begin to appreciate the clarity. You realize how easy it is to focus because there are no distractions. You start relying on keyboard shortcuts, and everything becomes faster. You begin customizing the system, learning the power of Openbox, Tint 2, and Conky. And eventually you end up with a system that feels uniquely yours, not because you installed themes from a store, but because you built the environment yourself in a minimal, efficient, and elegant way. BunsenLabs is also ideal for people who enjoy learning. It teaches you how Linux works under the hood, how window managers operate, how scripts control your environment, and how minimal systems can be optimized. It gives you a deeper understanding of Linux compared to point-and-click environments. And unlike extremely minimal distros like Arch or Gentoo, BunsenLabs does not require you to build everything manually. It gives you a solid base, then lets you expand from there. But BunsenLabs does not pretend to be for everyone. If you are someone who prefers heavy GUI tools, or who prefers flashy animations, or who wants an operating system that feels like Windows or Mac OS, then BunsenLabs might feel too minimal. If you want automatic settings panels that configure everything without touching files, then this distro might feel too manual. But for people who want absolute control, unmatched speed, and a low-resource system that performs flawlessly, there is nothing quite like it. Using BunsenLabs becomes a lifestyle. You stop thinking in terms of apps and start thinking in terms of tools. You learn to solve problems efficiently. You learn to tweak your environment. You learn to appreciate performance. You start to understand why Linux enthusiasts love lightweight window managers so much. Over time, the workflow becomes addictive. You launch apps instantly using key combos. You navigate files with fast tools. You adjust your environment on the fly. You move windows around effortlessly. You switch workspaces as if they were pages in a notebook. And your system remains smooth no matter how many programs you open. One thing that stands out in BunsenLabs is the community. Even though the distro isn't massive like Ubuntu or Fedora, The people who use it genuinely care about it. They are helpful, friendly, and passionate about minimal computing. You'll find configuration tips, themes, scripts, and troubleshooting help from people who understand the system deeply. It's a distro maintained with love rather than commercial goals, and that gives it a charm that big distributions sometimes lack. In a world of bloated software, constantly shifting UI trends, resource-hungry applications, and flashy but heavy desktops, BunsenLabs stands as a quiet but powerful alternative. It's a system that respects your hardware, respects your attention, and respects your freedom to shape your environment. It is not a distro meant to impress beginners at first glance. It is a distro that impresses people who stick around long enough to understand what it offers. And what it offers is speed, stability, beauty through simplicity, customization at every level, and a distraction-free workflow that brings out the best in your machine and in you as a user. BunsenLabs takes the old crunch-bang idea and elevates it into something modern, minimal, efficient, and elegant. It gives you a system that feels handcrafted, refined, and built with purpose. Whether you use it on an old laptop to bring it back to life, or on a high-end machine to turn it into a productivity powerhouse, BunsenLabs delivers an experience unlike any heavyweight distro. And once you get used to the speed, the clarity, the quiet power of Openbox, and the elegance of a system that does exactly what you tell it to, you may find it hard to switch to anything else. Because in the end, BunsenLabs is about control. It is about performance. It is about philosophy. It is about giving you a desktop that feels like an extension of your mind. And that is what makes it one of the most unique Linux distributions available today.